Ever feel like you're trying to hit a moving target when it comes to staying on top of things online? Websites, they change constantly, right? And it's so easy to miss something important.
Absolutely. It's like they're evolving in real time.
Exactly. So what if we could capture those changes, analyze them, maybe even get a step ahead of the game?
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Well, that's where we're diving into today, the surprising world of website screenshot services.
It's a fascinating topic, really much more than meets the eye.
Right. You might think, screenshots, what's the big deal? But trust us on this, it goes way beyond just hitting print screen.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about some seriously powerful tools here, tools that can give you a whole new perspective on the web.
And to illustrate this point, we're taking a deep dive today into a service called Add Screenshots.
Great example. There's a lot to uncover there.
Now imagine for a second, you're trying to keep an eye on what your competitors are doing, but their website is constantly changing.
It can feel like an impossible task sometimes.
Yeah. Add Screenshots can actually capture their entire website layout, even those super long pages that seem to scroll forever.
Those scrolling pages are the worst, aren't they? They get you every time. This way, you never miss a detail. No more scrolling and stitching together multiple screenshots.
Speaking of which, remember those times you just want to focus on a specific part of a website, like maybe a pricing table?
Been there, done that. Got the screenshot montage to prove it.
Huh. Add Screenshots has something called section screenshots, which lets you do just that.
No more squinting at tiny details or messing around with image editors.
Right. Instead of capturing the whole page, you can target specific elements. It's like having a digital magnifying glass.
Love that analogy. Perfect for tracking price changes or product updates really precisely.
Now, here's where things get even more interesting for me. Remember ever wondering what a website looks like in a different country?
You mean not just the language, but like the whole layout, right?
Yeah, exactly. Even different products they might be showing to that market.
Oh yeah, it's crazy how websites can completely change depending on where you're viewing them from.
It really is. Add Screenshots lets you capture websites from tons of different regions, giving you that global perspective.
Talk about opening up a whole new world of insights. Imagine being able to see how your competitors position themselves in different markets.
Or even just checking out those regional pricing variations. It's like having a digital passport. And get this, you can even tweak the browser settings for your screenshots.
Seriously? That's impressive.
Want to see how a website looks on an iPhone, for example, or in a specific language?
You've got it, no problem. It's like having a website testing lab right at your fingertips.
This level of control is a game changer, especially for web developers who need to make sure their websites are working perfectly, no matter what device or browser someone's using.
Totally agree. It's next level stuff.
Now we're getting to the part that I think is going to really blow some minds, especially for anyone who's ever found themselves spending hours and hours, like glued to their screen, tracking changes on a website.
Oh, tell me about it. Talk about tedious.
Right. What if you could automate that whole process?
Well, you're in luck because with Add Screenshots, you actually can. They have this thing called scheduled screenshots.
Scheduled screenshots. So instead of manually checking for updates,
You can just set it and forget it. Want daily screenshots of a competitor's website? Done. Weekly. No problem. Hourly. You got it.
that is a game changer right there.
Yeah.
Especially for those of us who, value our time. But it's not just about taking the screenshots, right? Add Screenshots can actually analyze those changes for you too.
You are on fire today. That's exactly right. Remember that change tracking feature we mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
This isn't just about seeing that something's different. It's about understanding exactly what changed. Add Screenshots actually highlights the specific differences between those captures you've scheduled.
Oh, wow. So you could see, for instance, if a competitor changed their pricing or maybe swapped out a product image, even just changed a line of text, all without having to painstakingly compare those pages yourself.
Precisely. And that's incredibly valuable, whether you're trying to stay one step ahead of a competitor or just making sure your own website is always looking exactly how you want it to.
It's like having your own personal website detective working around the clock.
I like that. A website detective. And speaking of staying informed, let's talk about staying in the loop. Do you really have to keep checking back to see if Add Screenshots has detected any of those changes? Or is there a more, shall we say, elegant solution?
I'm hoping you're about to tell me there is.
Oh, there is. Add Screenshots has these super handy email notifications.
So instead of being chained to my computer, constantly refreshing, Add Screenshots will just let me know if something changes.
Exactly. You can go about your day and you'll get an alert in your inbox the second something's different.
That's fantastic. Now, this next one honestly sounds almost too good to be true. The source material mentioned something called keyword monitoring. What exactly is that, and how does it work in this context?
I know, right? It sounds incredibly powerful, and it is. Imagine being able to set up alerts for any keyword you can think of, your industry, brand names, even specific products.
So I could, for instance, set it up to notify me if a news site mentions my company.
Exactly. Or if you're an art collector, you could set up alerts for a specific artist or a rare piece that you're hoping will come up for sale online. As soon as Ad Screenshots sees that keyword appear on a web page, boom, you get a notification with a screenshot.
Oh, wait, now you're talking my language. This is next level stuff. We've talked about capturing images, analyzing changes, even setting up these hyper-specific alerts. But what about actually getting that data out of those websites? Is that even possible?
It is, and that's where we start diving into some of the more technical capabilities of Ad Screenshots, but trust me, it's equally fascinating. Remember how we were saying earlier that websites are basically designed for human eyes?
Right, with the colors and the fonts and the images and all that.
Yeah.
Well, Ad Screenshots can also translate all that visual information into something that computers can understand and manipulate, something called JSON data.
JSON data. Okay, you're going to have to break this down for me. What exactly are we talking about here? For those of us who don't speak code, of course.
Sure. Think of it this way. A website, it's all dressed up for us humans, right?
Yeah.
With the fonts and the colors and the images and all that.
Right.
But underneath all that, it's really just code. And JSON, what it does is it takes that code, specifically the HTML structure, and it turns it into this really organized format that computers can easily understand.
So instead of just having a picture of the website, we're talking about actually extracting the information on that page in a way that we can then use for other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, imagine you're trying to track the prices of, say, a bunch of different products across a bunch of different websites.
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
So Ad Screenshots can take all those prices, capture them as JSON data, and then you could, for example, feed that into a spreadsheet to compare them, or even build your own little program to alert you when those prices drop.
Now that is extremely cool. I am already thinking of about a million different ways that could be useful, not just for businesses, but like for anyone who has to gather information from the web on a regular basis. But how do you actually get that data out of Ad Screenshots?
Ah, good question. That's where APIs come in. API stands for Application Programming Interface.
Right, APIs. I hear that term thrown around a lot.
Yeah, basically it's how different software systems can talk to each other behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, I like it.
So by providing that API access, Ad Screenshots lets developers integrate its functionality directly into their own applications.
So instead of having to manually grab the screenshots and data from the Ad Screenshots website, you can actually automate that whole process within your own tools and workflows.
Exactly. And the material even mentions some pretty interesting examples, like using the API to automatically generate those fallback images for ads.
Fallback images, what are those?
So if the main image for an ad doesn't load for some reason, you've got a screenshot ready to go so the ad still displays correctly.
Ah, that's really smart.
Yeah.
It's like having ad screenshots there in the background, taking care of all that stuff that you would normally have to do manually, which, by the way, reminds me, with all this talk about capturing websites and data, I've got to ask about the security aspect.
Yeah.
What's stopping someone from getting access to information that they shouldn't?
Oh, that is a very important point. And to their credit, Ad Screenshots seems to be very on top of that. One of the key things they do is they don't actually store screenshots permanently on their servers.
Oh, really? So they're just temporarily stored while they're being processed or whatever, and then they're delivered to the user's own storage.
Exactly. They let you connect to, your AWS account or Azure or Google Cloud, whatever you're using. So ultimately, you have full control over where that data goes and how it's secured.
Okay, well, that's reassuring, to say the least. Sounds like they've put some serious thought into the security side of things.
Yeah, which they really should, especially when you're talking about potentially sensitive information.
Absolutely.
But it really speaks to the point that what might seem like a pretty basic tool on the surface, it's just taking screenshots, can actually unlock this whole world of possibility when it comes to things like automation and analysis.
No, I completely agree. It's amazing to think about all the ways that this kind of technology can be used. We started off talking about basic screen captures, and now we're talking about monitoring websites across the globe, detecting changes automatically, even extracting data to build our own tools. My mind is officially blown.
Mine too. And we're just scratching the surface here. The source material even mentioned people using ad screenshots to do things like monitor appointment slots for things like DMV appointments or doctor's offices, or even track the availability of sold out items online.
But it's really incredible to see what's possible with the right tools. And I think so often we just kind of overlook these kinds of tools, assuming they're just these basic utilities. So this has been a real eye-opener for me.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. It just goes to show, there's always more to discover, even with something as seemingly simple as a screenshot.
Couldn't agree more. Well, folks, it looks like we've reached the end of our deep dive for today. We've covered a lot of ground. But before we go, we want to leave you with one final thought. What other creative, time-saving applications can you envision for this kind of technology? The web is constantly evolving, right? So who knows what other hidden gems are out there, just waiting to be uncovered. Until next time, happy exploring.